You can go ahead and bend your right knee and bring your left ankle over your right knee. Come into a reclined figure 4 stretch. You can reach behind your left leg, your left hamstring, or you have the option to grab your left shin. And stay here for 3 more cycles of breath. And release your feet down to the mat. Extend your legs overhead, feet towards the ceiling. Bend your left knee in, cross your right ankle over your left knee. Come into reclined figure 4 stretch. Reach behind your left hamstring or maybe grab your shin. Soften in. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And release. Bring both the soles of your feet to the ground. Make sure your ankles are in line with your knees. Bring your hands down next to your hips. Ground down through the soles of your feet. And slowly lift your hips off the mat. Come into bridge pose. Squeeze your glutes. Stay with me for 3 deep breaths here. And slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Go ahead and windshield wiper your knees from side to side. Maybe stay on one side a little longer before going to the other. And come back to center in the middle. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly start to lift your hips off the mat. Come into bridge pose. Tighten through your glutes. Feel strong through the soles of your feet. Feel the weight in your heels. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And lower down 1 vertebrae at a time. Bring your hips down last. And windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And come back to stillness in the middle. Hug your right knee into your chest. Extend your left leg out long. Keep your left hand on your right knee. Anchor your right hand down to a T. Drop your left knee or your right knee to the left side of the mat. Gaze over your right shoulder. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Try to anchor your right shoulder down to the mat. If it's coming off, just slowly come back towards the center to make sure your right shoulder is grounded down. And come back to the center. Give your right knee one more hug in and extend it out long. Hug your left knee into your chest. Keep your right hand on your left knee. Anchor your left arm down to a T. Drop your left knee to the right side of the mat. Gaze over your left shoulder. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And come back to center. Hug both knees into your chest. Maybe rock side to side. And find your way up to a seated position. Ground down through your sits bones. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. On each inhale, grow tall through your spine. And on each exhale, maybe walk your hands further out. You also have the option to walk your hands back towards your body if it becomes too much. Slowly walk your hands to the right side of your mat. Feel the stretch in your left side body. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And walk your hands back to center. Pause here. Take a slow, deep breath. And walk your hands to your left side of your mat, feeling the stretch in your right side body. Soften in. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly walk your hands back to center. Pause here. Slowly walk your hands back in, sit up nice and tall. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your right hand behind you, left hand to your right knee or the floor. Gaze over your right shoulder. On your inhale, grow nice and tall through your crown. And on each exhale, twist a little deeper. And come back to center. Sit up nice and tall. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your left hand behind you, right hand in front of you or to your knee. Gaze over your left shoulder. On each inhale, grow nice and tall through your crown. And on each exhale, twist a little deeper. And come back to center. Extend both feet out in front of you. Come into staff pose. Ground down through your legs. Make sure your sits bones are grounded. Sit up nice and tall. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Bring your hands to the soles of your feet, your shins, or the mat. Keep your chin away from your chest. Spine nice and straight. Stay here for 3 more cycles of breath. And slowly roll back up to a seated position. Come over to hands and knees. Make sure your knees are in line with your hips and slowly rise up to a standing position. Knees are on the mat. Bring your hands to your sacrum. Try to squeeze your elbows towards each other and slowly start to bend backwards, pushing your hips forward and bringing your chest up towards the ceiling. Maybe dropping your head back, come into camel. You can stay here or bring your hands down to your heels. If you brought your hands down to your heels, bring your hands back down towards your sacrum and slowly roll all the way up. Release your hands. Place your hands back down on the mat, come into table. Tuck your toes, push back to down dog. Settle in here for your first down dog. If it's your first down dog of the day, go ahead and pedal your feet out. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Settle in here. You can keep your hands on your hips or extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And lower your hands back down to frame your front foot. Place your left hand down on the mat. Bring your right hand to your hip or overhead. Twist open to the right side. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And place your right hand back down on the mat. Drop your back knee down. Untuck your toes. Slowly rise up to crescent lunge. Bring your arms overhead. Remember to keep your shoulders away from the ears. Bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, nice and tall. And on your exhale, hook your left elbow on the outside edge of your right foot. Look open to the side. Bring crescent twist. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And bring your hands back down to frame your front foot. Untuck your left toes. Lift your left knee off the mat. Step back to down dog. Inhale, reach your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Bring your hands to your hips and slowly rise up to high lunge. Settle in here. You can keep your hands on your hips or extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Bring your hands back down to frame your front foot. Place your right hand on the mat. Left hand can come to your hip or extend overhead. Come in to twist on the left side. Settle in here for 2 deep breaths. Bring your left hand back down to frame your front foot. Drop your back knee down, untuck your right toes. Bring your hands to your hips. Extend your arms overhead. Come into crescent lunge, second side. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. Bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, nice and tall. Exhale, hook your right elbow over your left knee. Come into crescent twist. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Untwist, bring your hands back down to the mat. Untuck your right toes, lift your knee off the mat. Step back to down dog. Come forward to plank and slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Untuck your toes, push down through the tops of your quads and your feet. Your hands are under your shoulders. Peel your heart off the mat, come into cobra. And lower down, tuck your toes, push back to down dog. Inhale, lift your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Bring your hands to your hips, rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Settle in here. Find your strength and stability in your core, in your quads. Anchor your left foot down, spin open, come into warrior 2. Gaze over your right fingers. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Feel the stretch in your right side body. Maybe try to walk your fingers on your left hand down your left thigh and shin. And come back to warrior 2. Straighten your front leg, hinge at your hips. Slowly start to reach your right hand for your shin or the mat. Come into triangle. Try to stack your shoulders. Remember to keep a micro bend in your front knee. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. Bend your front knee. Slowly rise up to warrior two. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Breathe into the stretch in your right side body. Try to reach a little further down your left leg. And come back to warrior two. Spin your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Ground down through your right foot. Slowly start to lift your left foot off the mat. Come into standing split. Left toes are facing down towards the mat. Try to kick that left foot a little higher up. Find your balance on your right foot. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly lower your left foot down, come into low lunge. Step back, come into down dog. Come forward to plank. You can take a vinyasa here. We will all meet in down dog. So lower down, come into cobra or up dog, and push back, come back to down dog. Lift your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Stay with me for 3 more deep breaths here. Anchor your right foot down, come into warrior two. Settle in. Gaze over your left fingers. Flip your left palm, reverse your warrior. Feel the stretch in your left side body. Maybe try to reach your right hands down towards your shin. Settle in here for 1 more deep breath. And rise back up to warrior two. Straighten your front leg. Slowly start to hinge at the hips. Bring your left hand down to your shin or the mat. Right arm overhead. Come into triangle. Try to stack your shoulders. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. Bend in your left knee, ground down through the soles of your feet, and slowly rise back up to warrior two. Settle in here. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Come back to warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Ground down through your left foot. Slowly start to lift that right foot high in the air. Come into standing split. Remember to keep your right toes and foot facing down towards the ground. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Slowly lower that right foot back down to the mat. Come back into low lunge. Ground down through your hands. Step back to down dog. Come forward to plank. And it's your choice. You can take a vinyasa here. We will all meet in down dog. So lower down. Come into cobra or up dog. Push back to down dog. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, bring your right knee to your left elbow. And push it back to three-legged dog. Bring your right knee to your right elbow. And push it back, come back to three-legged dog. Bring your right knee to your nose. And push it back to three-legged dog. And bring your right knee, thread it through, come into low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Settle in here. Anchor your left foot down, come into warrior two. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Straighten your front leg. Hinge at your hips. Bring your right hand down to your shin on the mat. Come into triangle. Stay with me for 3 more deep breaths. Bend into your front knee. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Ground down through your right foot. Slowly lift your left foot off the mat. Come into standing split. You have the option to keep your hands on the mat or go ahead and grab your right ankle with your hands. If you can't do both, maybe try grabbing your ankle with your right hand or go ahead and try both hands. It's okay to shake. It's okay to keep both hands on the mat. It's your practice. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Go ahead and release your hands to the mat. Slowly lower that left foot down, come into low lunge. Step back to down dog. Push forward to plank. You have the option to take a vinyasa here. We will all meet in down dog. Lift your left leg high in the air. Bring your left knee to your right elbow. And push it back to three-legged dog. Bring your left knee to your left elbow. And push it back for three-legged dog. Bring your left knee to your nose. And push it back to three-legged dog. Bring your left knee through, come into low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet and slowly rise up to high lunge. Settle in, Bring your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Sit up nice and tall for your spine. Feel the stretch in your right hip flexor. Ground your right foot down. Come into warrior two. Flip your left palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Straighten your left leg, hinge at your hips, and bring your left hand to your shin or the mat. Come into triangle. Stay with me for 2 more deep breaths. Remember to stack your shoulders and keep a micro bend in your front knee. Bend your left knee, ground down through the soles of your feet, and slowly rise back up to warrior two. Flip your left palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Ground down through that left foot. Slowly peel your right foot off the mat and extend it high in the air. Come into standing split. You have the option to stay here or go ahead and bring your hands to your left ankle. Maybe both hands, maybe one hand, maybe no hands. You do what you feel comfortable with. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Release your hands. Slowly lower your right foot down to the mat. Come into low lunge. Step back to down dog. Come forward to plank. You can take a vinyasa here. We will all meet in down dog. Slowly lower down. Come into cobra or up dog. And push back to down dog. Walk your feet towards your hands. Come into forward fold. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, bring your right knee into your chest and cross your right ankle over your left knee. Slowly sink down, come into standing figure four. Ground down through your left foot. Find a point to focus on with your vision. If you want, you can sink a little lower. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Slowly rise up, unhook your right foot. You can shake that out. Bring your left knee into your chest, cross your left ankle over your right knee, and slowly sink down, come into standing figure four on the right side. You have the option to stay here or sink a little lower. You can try to bring your armpit to your knee and the outside of your foot. We're here for 3 deep breaths. And slowly rise all the way up. Bring your left foot back down to the mat. You can shake that out. Inhale, reach your arms overhead and clasp your fingers overhead. Hands can be clasped, pointer fingers can be pointing towards the ceiling. Your thumbs are also crossed over each other like this. Inhale, nice and tall. And exhale, start to trace your fingers over towards the right side of your mat. Heart can be open, chest can be pointing towards the ceiling. Breathe in. And slowly rise back up to center. If you're drawing a line with your fingers, you can slowly start to point them back towards the back of your mat. Come into a mini back bend here. And come back to center. Inhale, stand up nice and tall. And exhale, draw your fingers over towards the left side of the mat. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And come back to center. Release your hands. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shin spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. And step back to down dog. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Inhale, slowly rise up, come into high lunge. Extend your arms overhead. Spin off your back heel, come into warrior 2. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Bend your right elbow, place it on your right thigh. Extend your left arm overhead. Come into extended side angle. You have the option to stay here, or you can drop your right hand down to the mat or take a bind. We're here for 5 deep breaths. Try to make sure the weight is in your right heel. And slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Step back to down dog. Push forward, come into plank. You can take a vinyasa here. We will all meet in down dog. So slowly lower down. Come into cobra or up dog. Push back, come into down dog. Extend your left leg high in the air. Thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Anchor your back heel down, come into warrior two. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly come back to warrior two. Bend your left elbow. Place your elbow on your left thigh. Extend your right arm overhead. Come into extended side angle. You have the option to stay here or bring your left hand down to the mat or take a bind. We're here for 5 deep breaths. Try to distribute your weight to your left heel. Stay with me for 2 more deep breaths. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Step back to down dog. Push forward to plank. Everybody, we're going to slowly lower all the way down to the mat. We're going to come into Superman. So you can extend your arms out in front of you, or you can keep them down on the mat, but we're going to tighten our quads and lift our feet off the mat. And you can go ahead and extend your arms out in front of you. We're here for 5 deep breaths. Tighten your quads, tighten your glutes. Lift your hands off the mat, your shoulders. And release. Go ahead and take a rest here. And we're gonna set up for one more Superman. Go ahead and tighten your quads, extend your arms out in front of you, lift your shoulders off the mat, head off the mat. Tighten through your quads and your glutes. Stay with me for 5 deep breaths. And release. Bring your hands under your shoulders. Come back to tabletop. Extend your knees out wide. Bring your toes to touch. Sink back to child's pose. Forehead can rest on the mat. Sink your hips back. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And rise back up to tabletop. Ground your right hand down. You can come onto your knee. Kick your left foot behind you. You can extend your right arm overhead. We're coming into side plank. You have the option to stay here, or you can lift your left leg off the mat, or come into full side plank. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Bring your left hand back down to the mat, come back to tabletop. Set up for side plank on the left side. So again, you have the option to ground your left hand down. Remember to keep your shoulder in line with your wrist. Knee down, left or right foot behind you, left arm or right arm overhead. You can lift your right foot off the mat, or you can come into full side plank. Your option. We're here for 3 deep breaths. Bring your right hand back down to the mat. Come back to tabletop. Ground down through your hands, tuck your toes, push back to down dog. Extend your right leg behind you and thread your right knee through, bring it towards your right wrist. Lay your right foot down, extend your left leg behind you. We're setting up for pigeon. Make sure your hips are square here. Your right ankle should be over towards your left wrist, or it can be pointing back towards the edge of your mat like a diagonal. Sit up nice and tall. You have the option to stay here, or you can slowly lower down, bringing your hands down to the mat and resting your head on your mat, your hands. Just make sure your spine stays nice and flat. We're gonna stay here for 1 minute. Settle in here. We often carry a lot of emotions in our hips. Sometimes feelings can rise up in pigeon. It's okay, just acknowledge them. Try to focus on your breath and be with your feelings in the moment. Yoga really teaches us how to sit in discomfort. We're here for 20 more seconds. Go ahead and rise up off your mat. Come onto your hands. Tuck your left toe and step back to down dog. You can go ahead and wiggle out your hips, pedal your feet if that feels good. Extend your left leg high in the air. Thread your left knee through. Set up for pigeon on the second side. Remember to square your hips. You can walk that right foot back. Make sure you set up nice and tall. You can stay here or go ahead and bow forward, keeping your spine nice and straight. Resting your head on your hands or the mat. Soften in here. We're here for 20 more seconds. Go ahead and rise up onto your palms. Tuck your right toes and step back to down dog. Go ahead and pedal your feet. Release your hips a little. Take one more deep breath here in down dog. And lower your knees down to the mat. Cross your shins, come into a wide-legged seated position. Ground down through your sits bones. Sit up nice and tall. Rotate your shoulders and your belly button towards your right toes. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. And exhale, fold over your right leg. Hands can come to your shin or the sole of your foot. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And come back up, back to center. Rotate your shoulders and your belly button towards your left toes. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. And exhale, fold over your left leg, bringing your hands to your sole of your foot or your shin. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And rise back up to center. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Settle in here. Feel the stretch in your inner thighs. Keep your chin away from your chest. And slowly rise back up. You can close your legs together. Bring your knees in towards your chest. Slowly start to sink back. Extend your legs out in front of you, shins parallel to the mat. Come into boat pose. Your hands can be out in front of you or grab behind your hamstrings for more stability. Stay here for 5 deep breaths. You're going to start to feel a shake in your core. Stay with me. And lower your feet down. Bring your hands behind you, fingers pointing towards your toes. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Make sure your ankles are in line with your knees. And slowly lift your hips off the mat. Come into reverse tabletop. Maybe let your head sink down. Squeeze your shoulder blades and your elbows together. And lower your hips back down to the mat. Start to walk back up and set up for another boat pose. Bring your shins parallel to the ground. Sink your shoulders back. Bring your hands out in front of you or to your hamstrings. We're here for 5 deep breaths. And lower your feet down to the mat. Bring your hands back behind you, fingers pointing towards your feet. Set up for reverse tabletop. Lift your hips off the mat. Maybe sink your head back. Push up through your hips. Squeezing your elbows towards each other. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And lower your hips back down to the ground. Release your legs out in front of you. And slowly lower your shoulders and spine all the way down to the mat. Come into a supine position. Bring both knees in towards your chest. Extend your feet up towards the ceiling. Stay here for 3 deep breaths. Feel the weight of gravity working on your legs. And cross your right leg over your left, like you're sitting down and crossing your legs. You're going to hug your knees into your chest. You can grab onto your right shin or the top of your left shin. Hug your knees into your chest. Stay here for 3 more cycles of breath. And release that. Extend both of your feet towards the ceiling. Pause here for 3 deep breaths. Keeping your feet flexed, feeling the weight of gravity working on your legs. And cross your left leg over your right leg. You're seated and crossing your legs. Hug your knees in towards your chest. You can grab for your right shin or your left. And hug it in towards your chest. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Extend both feet towards the ceiling. You have the option to stay here, or you can take any inversion of your choosing. You can come into plow or shoulder stand, whatever you would like. We're going to stay here for 1 minute. Remember to breathe. Focus in on your inhales and your exhales. Go ahead and slowly start coming back out of whatever position you're in and hug both knees into your chest. Maybe rock side to side. Maybe start to circle your knees out wide, rotating your hips. And come back to stillness in the middle before reversing the way you're rotating out your knees and your hips. And come back to stillness. Go ahead and extend your arms out to a T. Drop your knees over to the right side of your mat. Come into a supine twist. Gaze over your left fingers. And come back to center. Bring your knees back to center. Your arms can be out to a T. Drop your knees down to the left side of your mat. Gaze over your right fingers. And slowly bring your knees back up to center. Hug your knees into your chest. Go ahead and rock side to side if that feels good for you. Maybe grab the outside edges of your feet and come into happy baby. At this time, I invite you to do any asana you need to do to complete your practice today. And when you're ready, you can hug your knees into your chest and get ready to come into Shavasana. Go ahead and set yourself up for relaxation. We'll be here for about 5 minutes. So get yourself comfortable, maybe grab a blanket, maybe put your legs up a wall or use a bolster. And when you're ready, close your eyes and settle in. Feel the sensations and energy moving through your body. Take notice of any changes you feel. And start to settle, relax in, focus in on your breath. And let go of any other thoughts or distractions. slowly start to deepen your breath. You can invite movement into your fingers and toes. Maybe slowly start to wiggle them. Maybe circle your wrists and your ankles. When you're ready, extend your arms overhead. Take a nice big morning stretch. Roll over onto your side. Pause there, take a big deep breath before you come up to a seated position.